in the heart of Lagos, where the roads are alive with yellow Danfo buses honking impatiently, where street vendors shout the prices of roasted corn and groundnuts, and the rich aroma of suyo drifts through the warm evening air, lived a man named Chike and his wife, Amoka. They were young, in love, and full of dreams. The kind of couple that made neighbors smile, saying, "Oh, see how love should be." Their home echoed with laughter, gentle teasing, and shared meals at sunset. Chike was proud of his beautiful wife, and Amoka, she believed they were unshakable. But sometimes, the enemy of love isn't distance or money. It's pride and vanity. Slowly, silently, these two thieves began to creep into their home, ready to take everything they had built together. When they married, Chike stood before friends, family, and God, promising to stand by Amoka through thick and thin, through sunshine and through storm. Now, years later, she was carrying their first child, the heartbeat of their future, the joy of their home. But pregnancy had changed her body. And, tragically, it had also begun to change Chike's heart. That evening, the soft glow of their small dining room light bathed the table. The rich aroma of freshly cooked jollof rice with goat meat filled the air, mingling with the sweet smell of fried plantain. Amoka, dressed in a loose Ankara maternity gown, set the steaming plate in front of him with a hopeful smile. Amoka, gentle, loving. "Chike, I made jollof rice with goat meat. I know it's your favorite." Chike didn't even look up. He sat slouched, one arm on the table, thumb scrolling endlessly through his phone, a cold glow lighting his face. "Chike. Thanks." Amoka's smile faltered. Her eyes searched for the man who used to hold her hand under this very table. But Chike's gaze never left the screen. Picture after picture. Slim, stylish women posing with filters and painted smiles. The warm smell of food filled the room. But the warmth between them was fading fast. Instead of cherishing her, instead of protecting her heart in this delicate season, Chike began to mock her. Little jabs at first, disguised as jokes, but each one cutting deeper than the last. One humid afternoon, Amoka was folding freshly washed baby clothes in their living room. Her back ached from the weight of the child she carried, and sweat dotted her forehead despite the small fan spinning in the corner. Chike leaned on the doorway, arms folded, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. "Chike. Amoka, look at you, like you've swallowed a whole sack of yam." Her hands froze mid-fold. The soft baby shirt she was holding slipped from her fingers to the floor. "Amoka. Chike. I'm carrying your child." But instead of softening, Chike just shrugged, his voice sharp. "Chike. That doesn't mean you should look this big." The words hit harder than any slap. Her throat tightened, her lips quivered. But she swallowed her reply, choosing silence over a fight she knew she couldn't win. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. And in that silence, a piece of her heart quietly broke. Then came Sod, slim, stylish, and dripping with confidence. Always dressed to turn heads, with high heels that clicked on the pavement. And a laugh that could make anyone forget the world for a moment. Chike was drawn to her like bees to honey. Irresistible, intoxicating, and completely unlike the woman who waited at home, carrying his child. That evening, the neon lights of a Lekki cafe reflected off the glass walls, casting playful shadows across Soda's perfectly styled hair and sparkling dress. She leaned in close to Chike, her perfume sharp but inviting. "Sod. Chike, you're too fine for one fat village wife." Chike's chest puffed a little. He grinned, the pride of a man intoxicated by attention lighting his face. "Chike. You're right. I need a woman who turns heads. Meanwhile, back at home, Amoka sat alone in their small apartment, her hands trembling as she tried to tie her wrapper over her swollen, pregnant belly. Her heartbeat echoed in the quiet room, matching the dull ache in her chest. The laughter, the cocktails, the neon lights, all of it belonged to Chike now. And she was left with nothing but silence and the weight of disappointment. The contrast was stark. One woman glowing in the night with attention and desire. The other glowing with love, carrying his child, and yet completely invisible to the man she gave her heart to. One evening, the small apartment felt colder than usual. The air was thick with tension, heavy enough to weigh down Amoka's aching body. Chike moved through the room, grabbing his neatly folded clothes from the wardrobe. Each shirt and pair of trousers slipping into the suitcase with mechanical precision. Amoka stood near the doorway, her hand clutching the edge of the table for support. Her eyes, red and swollen from hours of silent crying, followed him with desperation. Her heart pounded in her chest, begging him to see reason. Amoka, pleading, voice trembling, teary. Chike, please, just wait until the baby comes. Chike paused for a moment, his eyes cold. And then he shook his head with a firmness that crushed her hope. Chike, firm, voice tight with finality. I can't do this anymore, Amoka. You've let yourself go. The words hung in the room like a storm cloud, heavy and suffocating. Amoka opened her mouth, searching for something, anything to make him stay. But no words could bridge the growing chasm between them. And just like that, without another glance, without a backward step, Chike walked out of their home. The click of the door closing behind him echoed like a verdict. Amoka sank to the floor, cradling her swollen belly. The silence of the apartment pressed down on her. A silence louder than any argument, louder than any scream. The silence of abandonment. Alone and heartbroken, Amoka poured herself into work. Her small apartment, once filled with laughter, now smelled of fresh fabric, thread, and determination. Sitting by her old sewing machine, she stitched Ankara dresses with nimble fingers. Each precise cut and careful seam a quiet rebellion against the pain in her heart. Her hands ached, her back ached, and her swollen feet throbbed. But her pain became her fuel, each stitch a promise to her unborn child. I will provide. I will protect. I will not let you suffer. Neighbor. Amoka, you need rest. You're working too hard. Amoka looked up from her sewing, a weak but determined smile on her face. Amoka, soft, resolute. I have to, for my child. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. And the small apartment transformed into a tiny workshop, buzzing with orders and the rhythmic hum of her sewing machine. Despite exhaustion, she never missed a beat, never faltered. Then, one rainy night, the sound of droplets tapping against the tin roof filled the small clinic. Amoka, exhausted but resolute, labored through the night. And in the quiet darkness, a cry pierced the air. Her baby boy had arrived, healthy, strong, and alive. Amoka held him close to her chest, tears streaming freely down her face, washing away the months of pain, fear, and loneliness. In that moment, she felt an overwhelming mix of love and relief. And a silent promise to herself and her son. We will rise, no matter what. Meanwhile, Chike's new life, once filled with excitement and allure, was quietly unraveling. The neon lights of nightclubs no longer sparkled with promise. They became a blur of loud music, empty bottles, and fleeting laughter. Sod, with her dazzling smile and perfectly manicured nails, cared only for luxury, attention, and enjoyment. Every naira Chike had saved seemed to slip through his fingers, swallowed by endless club nights, expensive dinners, and shopping sprees he could barely afford. One evening, as they sat in his apartment surrounded by shopping bags and unpaid bills. Chaik's frustration boiled over. Chaik, frustrated. Sod, things are tight. We need to cut down on spending. Sod leaned back on the couch, flicking her hair with impatience. Her eyes rolled dramatically, and a sharp laugh escaped her lips. Sod. Cut down. I beg, I'm not ready to suffer with you. Chaik's chest tightened. He realized then that the woman he thought loved him, loved only the lifestyle he provided. The weight of his mistakes pressed down on him, heavier than any debt or empty bottle. Then, as if to drive the final nail into his pride, one evening, Sod walked out. Hand in hand with another man, laughing freely, the click of her heels echoing like a mocking drum. And for the first time, Chaik felt truly, painfully alone. The vibrant nightlife, the laughter, the parties, all of it faded into emptiness. For once, the thrill he had chased for so long offered no comfort. He was left only with the bitter taste of regret, and the hollow realization that he had thrown away what truly mattered. One bustling Saturday afternoon, Chaik wandered aimlessly through the crowded streets of Yoba Market. The air was thick with the scent of roasted plantain, fresh spices, and the town of wet fabric from the colorful stalls that lined every alley. Vendors shouted over each other, selling vibrant Ankara fabrics, handcrafted jewelry, and everyday household goods. Then, he saw her. Amoka. She moved gracefully among the stalls, a vision of resilience and quiet power. Dressed in a bright Ankara gown that swirled around her ankles as she walked. She carried their son on her back, securely strapped with a patterned wrapper. Her hands were busy arranging fabrics for a customer, her posture proud despite the weight she bore. Her smile was radiant, not the kind painted on for admiration, but a smile born from strength, perseverance, and self-respect. The market noise seemed to fade around her, and for a moment, Chaik could see only her. Chaik, softly, to himself, voice trembling with regret. She looks happier without me. His chest tightened. All the parties, the clubs, the fleeting pleasures, none of it could compare to the life she had built for herself and their child. And for the first time, he realized the depth of what he had lost. It wasn't just a wife he had abandoned. It was love, loyalty, and the heart of his own family. Chaik's heart pounded in his chest like a drum in a festival. Every step toward Amoka felt heavier than the last. As though the weight of his mistakes had physically anchored him to the ground. Around them, the Yoba Market carried on as usual, the shouting vendors, the laughter of children, the clatter of baskets. But all Chaik could hear was the sound of his own guilt echoing in his mind. He stopped a few feet away, swallowing hard, his eyes locked on the woman he had once taken for granted. Her hands rested gently on the fabric she was folding, her posture calm and unwavering. Their son giggled softly from the wrapper on her back, oblivious to the storm between his parents. Chaik, hesitant, voice shaking. Amoka. I'm sorry. I was blind to your worth. Amoka looked up slowly, her eyes steady, filled with a quiet strength that cut through him like a sharp wind. Amoka, calm, steady. Sorry doesn't erase the nights I cried alone, Chaik. His throat tightened. He took another step closer, desperation creeping into his voice. Chaik, pleading, almost whispering. I want us to be a family again. I can't imagine my life without you and our son. Amoka's gaze softened ever so slightly, but her voice remained firm, unwavering. Amoka, firm, resolute. You can be a father to your son. But I've learned to live without you as my husband. The words hit him like a thunderclap. For the first time, Chaik truly understood the depth of the consequences of his pride, vanity, and neglect. The bustling market seemed to grow silent around him, leaving only the stark reality. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. And some lessons, must be learned the hard way. And so, Chike learned, too late, that beauty fades. The sparkle of youth, the allure of slender bodies, the thrill of admiration, all of it is fleeting. But loyalty, kindness, and the quiet strength of a loving heart, these are treasures that do not fade with time. They are priceless, and once lost, they may never return. Amoka raised her son with dignity, her every action a testament to resilience and love. She worked hard, she laughed freely, she smiled genuinely. And in doing so, she proved something the world often forgets. A woman's worth is never measured by her size, her looks, or fleeting beauty. It is measured by the strength of her heart, the depth of her love, and the courage with which she faces life's storms. Chike watched from a distance, the city's golden sunset casting long shadows across the market streets. He realized, with a weight heavy on his chest, that mocking a woman carrying your child is mocking your own blessing. He had chased illusions while abandoning what was real. And in the end, the only lesson he could carry forward was regret. So value her before she becomes the woman who walked away with her dignity intact and leaves behind only the echo of what you once had. The sun dipped low, painting Lagos in fiery gold and deep orange. As Amoka, her son in her arms, walked confidently into the horizon. And for Chike, the lesson was clear. Some things you cannot take back. But some things you can finally learn to honor in memory and in heart. Remember, true love is measured by loyalty, kindness, and the strength of the heart. Don't take it for granted. Value those who stand by you, before it's too late. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African folktales.